Audit logs are a vital tool for detecting and investigating security incidents, identifying potential vulnerabilities, and ensuring compliance with regulatory requirements. With BoxyHQ's audit logs in place, organizations can reconstruct events, trace the origin of security breaches, and implement appropriate measures to mitigate risks. Today, we're going to walk through the setup and configuration of getting audit logs up and running in your environment. With me is Ukersh, one of BoxyHQ's senior developers.
So audit logs tools, we call it retraced. So we have been working on this tool, and you can find the documentation on our website as well. So let's take a dive and clone the repo and start the service. So you can find the repo at retrace HQ and retrace. So you can find this link in the description as well. So let's clone this repo. So I just copy the URL from here and let's clone it. In the new terminal, I'll run git clone. I'll paste the address I copied from GitHub and it'll clone the code base for me. Once it is here, I will go inside the retrace folder, make sure you're in the main branch. And let's take a look at the README file. So if you go in README, you can see that we can run the service with Docker Compose. So the command is mentioned in the README file, and just copy this command. So all we have to do is run docker-compose up-d. Make sure Docker is installed in your system and Docker Compose is also installed. Once you run this command, it will build the project and run it for you. As the project is being executed, we have Elastic migration. So we are using Elasticsearch for indexing the logs. We have Postgres, which performs as a high-speed database to save the logs, and then those logs get indexed in the Elasticsearch. And this thing here, which is the dev bootstrap, it creates a dev project for anyone who is trying to just give it a try. It creates a project and environment for you so you can give it a go on your own. So after doing this, I just say docker ps and it will show all the containers which are running. You can see we have BoxyHQ/Jackson running here. So this serves as an admin portal. So you can manage things from the admin portal related to retrace the audit logs. Let's go in and check the environment file. So this is the admin portal section in the environment file. And these are the variables which are required for admin portal. So these are the bare minimum variables. But for anyone to use admin portal, there has to be a login mechanism configured there. So let's go and take a look at the environment variables related to admin portal, and you'll understand what variables you have to configure. So this is boxyhq.com. Under developers in the docs, if you go to enterprise SSO, deploy, and environment variables, you can see a bunch of environment variables mentioned here. So we want to find the SMTP underscore variables. So you see this section, it says admin portal configurations. So here you'll find this text that below variables are used to enable magic link based authentication for admin portal. So we want to enable this magic link based authentication only because this is the easiest for a newcomer or anyone who is using the product. So it says that we have to configure the SMTP underscore variables. So it is as easy as configuring an SMTP server. So we use Mailtrap for quickly receiving the emails, and we receive or we get the SMTP credentials as well from Mailtrap. So all we have to do is configure the SMTP underscore uh, environment variables. So there are 5 environment variables. All of them are related to SMTP host or SMTP server. And the next one which we have to do is this next auth ACL. So we'll configure them one by one. We'll start with the next auth ACL. So the next auth ACL should be your email address. So it can accept the wildcard email addresses as well. So it can be star@boxyhq.com, and it will allow all the boxyhq.com emails to use the admin portal. And let me configure the other variables. And let's freeze here, and I'll just copy paste the variables from other file. After configuring the SMTP variables and the next auth ACL, you can just start the service again with Docker Compose up -d. Once you start it, you can simply open localhost 5225, which is the port for our admin portal. It will show you the login screen, and you'll see two options here: send magic link and login with SSO. As I said, there are multiple methods to login. So we have the SSO method as well. So usually what is supposed to happen is you configure the SMTP credentials and uh, use magic link to login, and then configure your SSO and use it afterwards to make it more secure in production. So when I click on the send magic link,
And Ukersh, so if you clone the repo, start the containers, it fires up a server. You could be to the admin portal login screen within a couple minutes.
yeah, so it's as easy as that. We try to make the developer experience as good and as swift as possible. So just use the Docker Compose, your service will be up, configure those 6 variables, and you have a running service in your local. And
Excellent.
this is the mail trap account. I'll simply click on the latest email which I received. I'll copy the link of the button which says sign in. I'll paste that link here, and voila, I'm inside. So this is our admin portal. And here under the audit log section, if I click on projects, you'll see a project is already created for you called dev to use it right after you start the service. And now we'll see the configuration of this project. So you can see that there is a default environment, so there can be multiple environments. When you create new projects, it will usually create a production and a staging environment for you, one to test and one for production. You can see the project ID, the token. This token is used for authentication, so you will use this token to send events to this project. And this is the publisher API's base URL. So publisher API is the set of APIs which actually deal with the incoming events from multiple sources. You'll see a URL here which can be used to forward your events to that. And we have a curl request ready for you. So you can simply click here, you can copy this curl request, and you can start sending events. So with this curl request, you can start sending events to the project we have created. So simply after copying the curl request, I'll paste it here, I'll press enter, and I'll receive an object in the response which has ID and hash. Both are for the event which you just sent towards the audit logs project. So this is regarding sending events. So if curl doesn't work for you, you like something with the UI, some good client like Postman, you can do the you can use them as well. As we already have copied the curl request, I'll move to Postman. I'll click on import. I'll paste the curl request here, and I'll have the request imported in the Postman. And we can see that the token, the dev token, which we saw here, the default token that is configured in the authorization header. So token equal to dev. So that is how the authentication happens. And in the body, you can see your whole event. And we'll look at the structure of this event after this. So when I click on send, same thing, I'll receive an ID and hash. And yeah, this is the ID of the event and this is the hash of the event which was generated. So now let's take a look at the structure of the event. So if you move to the documentation, and we can go in audit logs, and you'll go to audit log section. In here you can click on how to audit log, and you'll see the JSON structure of the audit log which is accepted by our API. So this is the whole type. You have action, you have group. So group acts as a tenant. Action basically describes what action happened when this event was generated. CRUD has four values: C, R, U, or D. So it basically signifies the class of the event. Like this event was generated because of a create event. So this event is generated because there was a delete action happened on the product or a client which you're using. Created has the ISO formatted date. Actor is basically the entity which triggered this event, which did something that triggered this event. So it can be a user on your system, it can be some other network actor which basically made this event occur. The target is where that event occurred. Source IP is the IP address. Description is for a detailed description if you want to add. We have is failure and is anonymous fields as well. So using that, you can, in case you don't have an actor for that event, you can simply set its anonymous to true. In case this particular event is due to a failure, you can set is failure to true. And then we have this field section. So this is a key value pair, and the value is always string. So using fields, you can add or send metadata related to event, for which we don't have existing fields. So in case you want to give a detailed description or extra details about the event, you can pass them under fields. And here you can find a small example of the event. And if you want to know in detail about each and every section of this structure, you can go in and see what actors, actions, targets, about those things. You can find them in the documentation as well. So this was about how to send events, right? So, and we did send a single event. There can be situations where the client or the user want to send events in bulk. So that is also possible. We have the bulk API for that. So slash event slash bulk. And in here, instead of this event, we will send an object which will have a key events, and events will be an array. And in that array, you can send multiple events. Beautify that. So you can see I'm sending two events here in the events. Everything else remains the same, just the API endpoint and the body changes. And when I say send, I will receive two sets of ID and hash. So yeah, these two APIs are there for sending events. If you want to have rate limiting, if you want to collect events and send them in one go to avoid multiple calls to the retrace service, you can use the bulk event in that case. So yeah, this is how to send events. Nathan, what do you think we should cover next?
So this is ingesting logs. How do we actually see the logs?
Yes. So for seeing the logs, we have multiple methods available. So one is at the rate retrace HQ slash logs viewer. So it's a React component which you can use to see the logs. It's pretty easy to use. All you have to do is configure the host where you're hosting the retrace service. You will need a viewer token. So we'll talk about that in detail. Uh, the header which will be shown on top, and if you have any custom classes, if you have an existing theme and you want to make sure that logs viewer complies with that theme, you can simply pass your custom classes in this prop, and it will make sure that those classes are applied. And you can see the description in the bottom. So here we are actually using the retrace client to get the viewer token from retrace. So the retrace client is another npm package. It's like a library. Let's head over there. So this is the npm package called retraced under retraced HQ. So you can use this library in your backend or in even in your front end, depending on what kind of security you are dealing with. So if you don't, if you're just trying it out, you can simply use it in your front end as well. But if you want to keep it isolated from your front end, you don't want to expose any sensitive information on your front end, you can use this in the back end, and this will basically fetch the viewer token and it will send it to the front end, and that will be used there to fetch the logs. And this package is not just used to get the viewer token. You can actually send create events and save them in retrace using that package as well. We have the functions to create events here. This function called report events. Within that, you can actually create an event, send it to retrace, and save it. So this is the first method, and we have a demonstration of this method in retraced examples repo. So retrace HQ slash retrace examples. In this repo, you can find an example for that. We'll cover that after this. Next thing is the easiest way is simply using our admin portal. So in the list of projects, you'll see an action called view events. You can click on that and it will fetch and show the view events to you. It's as easy as that. You can change your environments, you can change your tenants from here. We have the searching, sorting feature by date range as well. You can export your events as well from here, and it basically uses Markdown to show the description. And you can see the detailed event by clicking on the more info button. So yeah, that's about admin portal. So let's take a look at the retraced examples. And just copy this link and clone this repo.
And Ukersh, what's amazing about this is, let's say um, you're the head of an organization, and because in most cases the developers won't have access to the admin portal, but executives do, and so somebody could quickly go into the admin portal and generate all of the logs that have been published. Um, so that's one use case. The other use case is what you're about to show, I believe, the npm package, where the logs could be embedded into your organization's application. Maybe you don't necessarily need in an admin portal because you have your own admin portal type environment or platform. So,
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Ukersh.
yeah. So yeah, that feature is really a value addition for organizations who already have their own admin section, admin environment, and they don't have to rely on our admin portal to see the logs. They can simply embed the logs viewer in their existing applications, given it's in React, and they can see the logs on their own product itself. So let's run it. This is a monorepo, so we'll see a bunch of commands in package.json. So what we want to focus on is the log viewer example. So there are two parts to it. One is the backend, and one is to start the front end. Okay. So first step is to do an npm I, which will install all the dependencies. So once this is done, you have to run two commands in two different terminals. So if you go to the package JSON and what you want to look for is log viewer, there are these two commands. One runs the backend of log viewer. Let's run that npm run backend log viewer. This will start the backend of log viewer, which is supposed to find the viewer token and send it to the front end. So if we look at the index.js of the backend, you can see it is actually creating mock events every time we call the API. And yeah, here it is using the report event function to add events. So when someone is trying this example, they'll see a new event every time they search an event. So that for new developers or someone who is trying this, they don't have to do the effort to send events. They can just simply refresh and there'll be a new event there for you. And on line number 76, we are actually creating or getting a viewer token from backend and we're sending it to front end, so front end can use that token. And okay, so this is our front backend. Now let's run the front end for this. So I'll just use the start command for that, and it should open up a new tab in my browser. There we go. And it's running on port 3006. And there you go. So this is the same log viewer which we have embedded in our admin portal. And yeah, not just this, we have another example for you. So let's take a look at that one. So this one we specially made to showcase the core concepts of log viewer, which is like what kind of logs there should be, how the CRUD key should be used, when to use meta key, and what is the value addition of that fields key. So there's another example called next auth here. So let's run that. npm run dev next auth. So this application, it runs on port 3366. So let's open that. Localhost port 3366. So it shows me this login page. So this application basically works with three different roles: admin, manager, and viewer. So viewer can only see the expenses. The manager can do all the CRUD operations on the expenses, and the admin can do everything that manager can do, but admin can also see the audit logs as well. So we'll directly show you the admin login. So when you click on the login button here in the email, you just enter admin and say sign in, and it will show you the expense management related inputs on the left side, and on the right side you can see all the logs. So you can see the older logs here, as this application is also using the dev project. And here you just saw that it wrote another log: admin perform action login on the item homepage. So the login action which just happened, that got recorded in the audit logs and fetched from there, and it is being shown you on the right side. So let's add an expense and see what happens. I'm adding expense for Wi-Fi with 150 as amount. Yeah, you see, we got a log here that there was a create expense action. Let me delete an expense, and you see admin perform a delete expense record, and it is showing expense for gas deleted. So this thing, expense for gas deleted, this is coming using the fields key. So in the fields key, I saved the expense description as a metadata, and when I'm showing the logs, I can use that uh, fields which has a metadata to show the extra information about that particular event.
With audit logs in general, it's your backup because everything is being recorded.
Exactly. So all the actions happening on your platform. Once they are recorded, you can just play through those actions and you can actually trace back uh, to a particular position from where things started going wrong.